Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Bab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, I'm going to be showing us how to make this beautiful gown. It has a stylish collar and it has a rectangular slit at the center front. You can see my beads holding the slits together, and it's a shoulder princess bustier. It's a combination of two different African prints and it has a gathered waistline. This gown is really beautiful, very stylish, very unique, and very simple to make. I hope this is something you're interested in learning. Please kindly sit tight while we get right into the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and also put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. So let's get into the video. Okay, these are the African prints I'm going to be using for this project. I'm going to use this first one for the upper part, while the second I'll use it for the down part and for the sleeves also. So the measurements we need for this project will appear on your screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is to fold over the fabric to achieve the upper part. And to determine the amount of fabric to fold for the upper part, I'm going to divide the biggest circumference I'm working with. And the biggest circumference is the bust. The bust is 40. So 40 divided by 4, that will give me 10. I'll add 4 inches to that measurement. So that will be 14 inches. This is to allow me have my dart intake and all that. So I have 14 inches here on fold. So first I'm going to go ahead now and draw my starting line, which is the shoulder line. So on the shoulder line, I'll mark 3 inches and then I'll mark half of the shoulder measurement of my client plus half inch for joining the sleeve. So here I have 8.5. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the 8.5 mark I have on the shoulder line, and I'll slant it to meet the 3 inches. So now this is our shoulder slant. Next, I'll enter the vertical measurements. And the bust point is 10.5. I'm marking on 11 inches because I need half inch for joining the shoulder. The underbust point is 13.5. I also marked on 14 inches. That's plus half inch. Then the half length of my client is 16.5. So instead of marking on 17 inches here, I'm marking on 17.5 because we need half inch to join the down part also. So meaning that at the hem there, I added 1 inch. That's at the half length here. I hope we understand. So next I'm going to enter the armhole measurement, which is the chest line also. So from the shoulder slant here, I'll come down by the armhole measurement of my client, which is 8 inches. How did I come about the 8 inches? I divided her bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5. So you get the chest line or the armhole line by that. And then I went ahead also to enter half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch at that point. That's at the chest line to have a straight line, and I connected it to the shoulder line. So now having done that, I'll get the midpoint of the armhole line, which is 4 inches, and then I'll go in by 3/4 of an inch. This is to curve in the armhole because our armhole is not straight. So that this is to eliminate a bulge from the armhole area. So I'll bring in my armhole curve. From that 3/4 of an inch, I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip like this, and then I'll curve it to meet the chest line. But before curving it to meet the chest line, I'm going to enter 1/4 of her bust measurement on that chest line. So that's where the curve of the armhole now will stop. Our front armhole. So next I'll come here to the bust line and enter half of the nipple to nipple measurement. Half of the nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So I'm going to enter 4 inches plus half, so that will give me 4.5. Half inches for my seam allowance, so 4.5. So I'll come down to the under bust line and mark the same 4.5, and then to the waistline I'll mark the same 4.5. And then I'll connect it with a straight line like this. So now here on the bust line, I'm going to enter quarter of the bust measurement, which is 10 inches. So now we want to determine our dart intake for the underbust and the waistline. So to determine the dart intake is the difference between the waist and the bust that gives us our dart intake. So the bust divided by 4 is 10 inches. The underbust and the waist divided by 4 is 8.5. So that's a difference of 1.5 inches. So that 1.5 inches is what I'll be using to tighten the underbust and the waist measurement. So I'll come here to this side and mark that 1.5 inches here, and then I'll mark it here at the side here. Can you see at the side here I have 1.5 and I have 1.5 here. So on this other side, I'm just going to mark half inch. So having done that, I'm going to straighten my lines this way. So now I'll come here to the bust line. I'll come down by half of an inch from the bust line. And then I'll use my armhole curve to connect from here to here like this. So you just want to make sure you place your curve correctly. And then I'll also repeat the same thing on this side. Okay, so having done that, now I'll come to the neckline and enter the neck width I'll be using. Since I'm going to have a collar on this neckline, so the neck width I'm going to use is 2 3/4. So I'm marking 2 3/4. I want the neck to be narrow. So I'm also going to mark a depth of 3 inches. So I'm here using 2 3/4 here, and on this side I'm using a depth of 3 inches. And then I'll connect my curve this way. Okay, so remember that we're making a shoulder princess dart. So from the neckline here, where I have the neck width here, I'm going to measure from here to the shoulder tip and get the midpoint. So from here to the shoulder tip, I have 6 inches. The midpoint is 3 inches. So I'm going to connect this to the bust point here. You see that? So I'm going to take a dart of half inch on both sides. So I'm going to mark half inch on this side and then half inch on this side. Then I'll also use my straight ruler to connect it to the bust point, just like this. So having taken out my dart from the shoulder, remember that we're going to be cutting this out, so automatically it will affect the shoulder measurement. So this dart now that I have taken out here, I'm going to replace it back here on this shoulder slant. So here I have a dart intake of 1 inch, so I'm going to extend this part with 1 inch. So I'm using a different color of chalk so that it's clear. So I'm marking 1 inch here. So now at the midpoint of this armhole, I'm going to check what do I have here. So I have about half inch and 1/8 of an inch. So that's like 0.6. So I'm going to enter that 0.6 here, which is almost 3/4 of an inch. And then here at this point, I have less than half inch. So I'm just going to replace it here. So can you see that? So now I'm going to connect this point to this point and this point. So now this is now going to be the new armhole. I'm just going to place my curve this way, making sure that all the points touch. Can you see this point is touching this point and then this point is touching this point. So I'm just going to curve it here like this. So now this is our new armhole. So I'm just going to extend it like this so you can see. So next I'll come to the bust line and enter the bust quarter of the bust measurement, which I already have here and is 10 inches. So I'm going to now add my 2 inches for my sewing allowance. And then on the bust line, I'll enter quarter of the on the bust measurement, which is 8.5. And I already have a dart intake here of 2 inches in total. So I'm going to replace that 2 inches, and then I'll add my 2 inches for sewing allowance. Then on the waistline, I'll enter quarter of the waist measurement, which is also 8.5. And then I'll replace back the 2 inches, which is for my dart intake, and then 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Then I'm going to use my ruler to connect it this way. See, and then we'll just connect to the armhole. So by entering 2 inches for my sewing allowance here on the bust line, automatically you can see that has been entered on that's on the chest line also. So that's that. So next we're going to go ahead and cut it out. But before we cut out, our front and back length are not the same. So I'm going to be removing the difference between the front and back of this my client, and it is 1.5. So I'm just going to come here to the side here and mark 1.5. Then I'll slant it to end at the first dart leg. Okay, you can see this is the first dart leg. I'll slant it to meet it at the first dart leg. So that's it. So now I'll bring in my scissors and we'll go ahead and cut out our pattern. And see that I've taken out my dart, and this is what we have. So I'll come here and cut out this difference. So this difference is actually the bust dart. So if we were drafting on a pattern paper, I would have closed the bust dart. But because I'm drafting on my fabric directly, so that's why I'm cutting it out like this. So if you were to draft on your pattern paper, all you need to do is to add that half inch. When you finish cutting out your dart, you add the half inch that you'll be using to join them together. So that's it. So next we're going to draft our back piece. Okay, so for the back, this is the shoulder line and this is our center back. So here we have our zip allowance of 1.5 inches. So all my measurements will start from this line. So this is now the center back and this is the shoulder line. So first I'm going to also mark 3 inches here, and then mark half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining the sleeve, which is 8.5. So at this 8.5, I'll come down by 1 inch, just like I did for the front. And then I'll slant it towards these 3 inches, and this is the shoulder slope. So next I'll come down by the armhole measurement, which is also the chest line, and that's 8 inches. So at this point, I'm going to reconfirm this 8.5 I have on the shoulder here. This is to have a straight line. So at this point, this is where I have my 8.5. And then I'm going to draw a straight line towards the shoulder like this. And then I'll square out this line. So now this is now our chest line and this is our waistline. And the waistline here, the back half length is 15. I remember I said that the front is 17 inches. Then I added half inch, which gave me 17.5. And the difference between her front and back is 1.5 inches. So 17 minus 1.5, that's going to give us 15.5. So plus half inch for joining the down part. So that gave me 16 inches. So the back half length I have here is 16 inches. So next we're going to enter our measurement. So here on the chest line, which is the armhole line, going to enter quarter of the bust measurement here, which is 10 inches. So plus 2 inches for my sewing allowance. And then here on the waistline, I'll enter quarter of the waist measurement, which is 8.5, plus 2 inches for sewing allowance, and then plus 1 inch for dart. Then I'll go ahead and connect with a straight line to the chest line. Having done that, so we'll come here to draw our armhole. So like I did for the front, I'm going to get the midpoint of the armhole, which is 4 inches. And then I'll mark half inch at this 4 inches mark. I'll go in by half inch. This is to eliminate bulge at the armhole area. So and then I'll connect it to the shoulder tip like this. Then I'm going to curve this armhole to meet the bust measurement. Can you see? Not to the sewing allowance, to the bust measurement, please. So can you see? So now this is our back armhole. So I'm going to come here to the neckline, that's to the shoulder line, and mark the same neck width of 2 and 3/4 that I marked in front. So this is my 2 and 3/4 here. And then I'll come down with the neck depth of 1/2 inch. So this is my neck depth of 1/2 inch. Can you see that? So now to eliminate zipper bulge, I'll come here to the zip allowance I added here. I'll take out 1/2 inch from the zip allowance. This is to make sure that the zipper at the back is flat. You don't want it to bulge at all. So I'm going to connect this 1/2 inch to the neckline here. So right now, we're almost done with our back. So I'm going to come here now from the center back and mark the dart. Remember, we added 1 inch for our dart. So I'll mark the nipple to nipple measurement. Half of the nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So here is my 4 inches. So this chest line, I'm going to straighten it out because that's where our dart will be zeroized. So on this chest line, I'll also mark half of the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. So I'm going to connect with a straight line from the waist to the chest line. And then I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on this side and 1/2 inch on this side. So that's a total of 1 inch. So at the chest line here, I'll come down by 1/2 inch. So at this 1/2 inch point, this is where I'm going to connect my dart to. So this point is where the dart will zeroize. So I'm just going to connect it this way. I see this way. So now my dart of 1 inch has been taken. So this will also reflect on the other side. So our back is really simple. You don't need the bust point line, neither do you need the under bust line. All you need is your chest line and the waistline, and your back is ready. So we'll go ahead now and cut out our pieces. So now this is our back. So at this point where I have my dart, I'm going to notch it so that it will reflect on the other side. So you can see. So go ahead and just mark the other side to indicate that this is the wrong side. So now I'll bring in my front piece or my front pieces. So you can see that here at the sides, you can see that the front and the back are matching up. No one is longer than the other. So that's because of that 1.5 inches I took away from the side. So can you see that they are matching up? So you want to make sure that your front and back aligns on the side because you're going to join them together. So now here at the center front, I want to create a rectangular shape, just a small slit in front, but it's going to be rectangular in shape. So, so at the center front here, I'm going to come down by 3 inches from the neckline. So I'll come down by 3 inches and then I'll come in by 1/4 inch. That slit is really small. It is not V shape, it's rectangular in shape. So I'll come in by 1/4 inch and I came down by 3 inches. I'm going to go ahead now and cut it opened like this. So this is what my slit is going to look like in front. So now we are done with the upper bodice. The next thing we want to do now is to cut the fabric we'll be using for our gathers. So here, the full length of my client is 60 inches. That's her full length. And already at the upper part, we already have 17 inches, which is her half length, okay? So we're going to subtract 17 from this full length of 60, and that will give us 43 inches. So now, this 43 inches is what we'll be using to achieve our gathers. So the first Ankara fabric is there and the second is going to be there. So now this 43 that we have here, I'm going to divide it by 2. So when you divide 43 by 2, it will give us 21.5. So, and I want the first gathers to be longer than the second gathers, that's in length. So here now, this 21 inches that I have here, I'm going to subtract 21.5 minus 6, and that will leave me with 15.5 inches. So now I want the second gathers, which is going to be the shorter one, to be 15.5 inches. So this first one now, I'm going to add this 6 that I subtracted from this one to the first one. So now I'm going to say 21 plus 6, and that will give me 27.5. Okay, so now the first gathers, which is this fabric, is going to be 27.5, and the second gathers, which is this fabric, is going to be 15.5 inches. So now to this one, that is the first gathers, I'm going to be adding 1 inch to it, because I need half inch to join it to the waistline of the upper bodice, and I also need half inch to join it to the second gathers, and that will give me 28.5. So 28.5. So for this second one that is going to be at the hem, I'm going to add 2.5 to it. So this 2.5, half inch will be for joining it to the first gathers, and 2 inches will be for the hemming allowance. So that will give me a total of 17.5. So now the length for the second gathers is 17.5. The length for the first gathers is 28.5. So now to determine the width of the gathers. So for the first gathers that will be gathered to the upper bodies, I'm going to multiply the waist measurement by 2.5. So, and the waist measurement of my client is 34. So 34 times 2.5, you can do times 3, you can do times 2.5, depending on how full you want your gathers to be, but here I want to use 2.5. So 34 times 2.5, that will give me 85. So 85. So this 85, I'm going to add my zip allowance to it. I'm going to add my zip allowance of 1.5 on both sides, which is going to give me 3 inches. So that's a total of 88 inches. So the width of the first gathers is 88 inches, and the length is 28.5. So now for the second gathers, which the length is 17.5. So for the second gathers, I'm going to multiply this 88 that I have here now. Remember, I'll be gathering this, that's I'll be gathering the second gathers to this 88 inches. So this 88 now, I'm going to multiply 88 by 2.5. So 88 times 2.5 also, that will give me 220. So the width of the fabric I'll be gathering at the down part is 220, while the width of the fabric I'll be gathering at the upper part is 88 inches. And remember that there's no need now to add that zip allowance, because I multiplied the whole total here. Remember that I got 85 and I added 3 inches, so that gave me 88. So this 88 is what I multiplied by 2.5. So there's no need adding zip allowance at the down part, because your zip allowance will eventually show up. Okay, so now the first gathers I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut a width of 28 inches, 28.5. That's a length of, so now the first gathers I'm going to cut, I'm going to cut a length of 28.5 inches with a width of 88 inches. And then the second gathers is going to be a length of 17.5 inches and with a width of 220 inches. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut it out and show us. So I've gone ahead to cut the fabric I'll be using for my gather. So this will be the first step, and this will be the second step. Okay, so the length I have here already, I told us that's 28.5, and then here I have 17.5. So now I'm going to set this aside, and then we'll go ahead and cut our sleeve. So you notice that it's a balloon sleeve. It has gathers at the down part of the sleeve. So to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I'm going to use the armhole measurement. So the armhole measurement of my client is 8 inches plus 2 inches. That will give me 10 inches. So here I have about 11 inches, and that's what I'll be using. So, and then the length of the sleeve is 22 inches plus the hemming allowance of the sleeve and for half inch joining it at the upper part. So I'll be working with 24.5. So I'm going ahead to draw my starting line, and then from this point I'm marking 24.5, which is the length of the sleeve plus hemming allowance. So from the starting line here, I'm going to come down by the calf's height of my client. So how do you get the calf's height? You divide the bust by 12 plus half inch, and that will give you the calf's height. So her bust is 40. 40 divided by 12 plus half inch, that is 3.8, so which is about 4 inches. So I can just approximate it to 4 inches. So I'm going to mark here on 4 inches. So on this mark here, on this calf's height line, I'm going to enter our armhole measurement, which is 8 inches. Take note that my fabric is on fold. So from this 8 inches, I'm going to slant it towards the tip of the sleeve like this, to the head of the sleeve. I've done basic sleeve on this channel several times. So in case you don't understand, but I'm just going to take my time and explain this. So now the slanted line, I'll get the midpoint of the slanted line, which is 4.5. Remember, I marked 8 inches this way and I slanted it to the sleeve head. So by slanting it, it becomes longer. So that gave me 9 inches to this point. So the midpoint of 9 inches is 4.5. So now I'll get the midpoint of this 4.5 here, which is going to be 2 1/4. And I'll also get the midpoint at the upper part, which is going to be another 2 1/4. So at this upper part, I'll go up by half inch. And then at this down part, I'll come down by half inch. And then I'll bring my armhole curve and connect it. So from the sleeve head to this half inch to this point, I'll connect it like this. Can you see that? And then from this center to this half inch and then to the end here, I'm going to connect it also. So you want to place your curve correctly so that it blends up well. So can you see that? So this is it. So now we have the sleeve cap here, okay? So next I'm going to enter my sewing allowance of 2 inches from this point. So I'll mark 2 inches here. So because I'll be gathering this sleeve at the end here, so I'm just going to bring what I have here, which is this 10 inches. I'll bring it here also, and that will be the same 10 inches. So I'm going ahead to connect it like this with a straight line. So now this is now my sleeve. Remember that I've added my hemming allowance of 2 inches here and then half inch for joining the upper part. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the sleeve. So I'm not shaping this sleeve. The measurement I have here, which is 10 inches, I just took it down straight so that I can gather the sleeve at the down part. So right now I'm going ahead to cut out my basic sleeve. So right now we're done with the cutting part, except for the collar. So in my next video, I'm going to be showing us how to cut this beautiful collar and also how to stitch our pieces together to achieve this lovely gown. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you did, do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel and make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post the second part of this video. And also feel free to share, leave a comment, and like this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.